You're listening to Xsgaming Podcast, a podcast for gamers by gamers, with your hosts Xander, Skullion, and James Gruesome, bringing you something old, something new, and a little bit of nostalgia too.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Xsgaming Podcast. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whichever time you guys are checking us out. And this is episode 100. That's right, 100 episodes of Xsgaming Podcast goodness is coming your way, guys. And we're recording this on the 16th of March, 2017. I'm one of your hosts, Xander Skullion, and joined with me is none other than James Gruesome, who is just slaying the 5 billionaires right now. What's up, James?
Oh, yes, old man Gruesome here. Man, I feel old. 100. Wow. It's a long time, you know. It's really cool, though. It's one of those things like, you know, we may not be the greatest show ever. I think we're pretty damn good, and we're still here. And that's a big thing nowadays because so many people will go at it for a bit and stop, and you know, once in a while we'll have a little delay on an episode, but I think we stay pretty steady and pretty constant. And at the end, you know, it's just a really cool milestone, you know, to hit. The big 100.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, the thing about like podcasting, I mean, we've been doing this now for like 4 years, and the thing about it is like there's so many podcasts that I enjoy listening to. And there's been many podcasts I enjoyed listening to that they would just, you know, after their 30th episode or something, they would just trail off into nothing. Like you wouldn't hear anything back from them. And for us to be at episode 100 doing this for 4 years, that's a pretty big deal for a podcast because not a lot of podcasts are like that, you know?
No. One of the shows I listened to, the Retro League, they've been going for quite a while, and they do a show straight up every week. You know, I mean, they are on point. It's a very awesome show. I've mentioned them before, and everybody should check them out. But one of the guys on there would say, you know, people would call in or, you know, give them feedback, say, hey, I have a podcast too, and they'd tell them. And one of the guys would always be like, he's like, the way to check, he's like, you look at their feed and see if they've got, you know, he's like, if they're past episode 10, he's like, I'll usually go ahead and check it out. He's like, but if it's under 10, he's like, I'm just going to wait to get there to see if you stick with it, you know. And that is even amount too, like you'd mentioned, up to like, you know, 30, where so many could still, you know, get up to then and stop. And you know, it's just cool to still be here, still meeting, you know, cool people and, you know, new people checking out the show. It's just it's always, you know, great to have the interactions, and, you know, it's just fun to sit here and talk for you know, an hour or so every few weeks.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I'll go ahead and just get into some of our like little podcast memories a little bit before we get into the news and our break and everything like that. It's just one of those things. Like I started this as kind of like just a wondered hobby. I'm like, you know, a curiosity, I should say. And what got me wanting to start it, of course, was All Gen Gamers, the All Gen Gamers podcast. And you know, I was telling you before we started recording, James, that, yeah, this is episode 100, but honestly, I feel like episode 103 is going to be like our actual episode 100, and the reason why I say that, for some of you guys that haven't been following us this long, is the third episode is when I had James on. James was actually my first guest on the podcast, and he's just been a guest. It's always been here, and he turned into my co-host, you know, and so to me, 103, like that episode, I want to make that really special. That's the reason why I'm like, oh, this is episode 100. Let's just, you know, there's a lot of game stuff to talk about. Let's just talk about that and have a good time, you know?
Yeah, no doubt. It was. You know, the very first two episodes were just you sitting there talking for about, is that 15 minutes one time?
Yeah.
I think one might have gone up to 20. Was it like a Project Deadlight or
yeah,
it was one
Project
of those games?
Deadlight.
I think it was like on the 1 or 2, and like I remember because like I listened to the first 2, and yeah, then you hit that because I think actually was the September of last year, like the actual 4th year, and then that this is heading into. Like, will this be 5 years this year or 4?
We started this in like
in
2012, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So hitting in this year will be like 5 because
oh wow,
it's like averaging about 2 a month, and then adding it all up, over 4 years, like adds up too. So yeah, that was the real start. Went back on our first few episodes of the Blog Talk Radio,
Oh my
on the
gosh.
call in on the telephone. We had, had the little countdown lady that would start it out.
And we
I think had,
couldn't cuss. We couldn't cuss.
Yes, that's one thing. We drop a couple here and there. I still think we keep it fairly minimal sometimes, but it's just nice to have the more freedom, to cut down to 30 minutes. Sometimes you really had to, get out what you were saying. You had to, think on it, make sure, spit it all out and cut down on the timer and done. Like, the Blog Talk site, I think, is a really cool way for people, especially if they want a more easier method, to get into trying out podcasting and stuff. It was really cool, but you do have limitations with it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's where it all started. I mean, Blog Talk Radio, and it's crazy to think that we would have, we stayed very upfront with doing an episode every other week, and we were on Blog Talk, doing those 30-minute episodes, and we were talking about something that we're extremely passionate about, like Castlevania. When we had the Castlevania episode, talking about Castlevania in 30 minutes was a challenge within itself,
So much was. One of my friends I had told to listen to, and he's like, yeah, it was pretty good, man. He said, it just seemed like, you were kind of rushing through it, like you were talking. I was like, dude, it's 30 minutes. I can sit there and ramble for a long time. It's I got to be direct and just got to stay on focus. But, there's still podcasts. One of the longest running wrestling ones, Pro Wrestling Torch, they still use Blog Talk Radio.
That's crazy.
And a lot of the other podcasts sometimes will just kind of knock them on it, just because it is kind of more a slightly old-timey means. But I guess this worked for them. They stuck it out. And like I said, and nothing bad to say about it, because it is a very, if all you got's a telephone and you want to do a podcast, pretty much, a little bit of computer work, you can do it off of Blog Talk, very easily.
Yeah, and the thing is too, I tell everybody, when you're doing a podcast, we record through Skype. James lives about 2 hours away from me, but of course he can't just drive down here. I drive up there and we record an episode. Thankfully we have Skype. Sometimes we have Skype issues, but my biggest advice I would give to people that want to start a podcast is make sure that you get a someone that wants to do the show with you just as well as you want to do this show, because that's one thing. James, me and him are on the same page on so many things, and time can be very, very hard to record a podcast. So that's one of the biggest advice tips I would give to someone that's listening. It's man, I would love to do a podcast, and also go ahead and do it, man, because it's a lot of fun. I make videos on my YouTube channel, and I love making videos, but what got me wanting to do stuff with the gaming community was doing podcasting, and it's a lot of fun. It's fun. I met a lot of great people.
No, it has been a nice little journey. And when you think about shows, too, I want to bring a mention, because you had mentioned the All Gen Gamers, who I'd learned about through you. We've had half of them, at one point with Gamester and Jason Heine on the show before as guests. Very, very cool people. Nothing but good things to say. But one of my favorite podcasts, the first video game podcast I started listening to was the original Sega Addicts. And I just found them. I would search on iTunes just for video game titles, or look up Sega and just see what would pop up. And, theirs came up, and I started listening to it. They even had, one of the guys, Jim Sterling, that does a lot of stuff. He's a Destructoid, I think. Mm-hmm. He was actually one of the original members on their show. And it was just him and three other, just kind of seemed like random dudes that didn't have any connections to anything. And one guy had started the Sega Addicts website, and then, I guess they just kind of linked up with him, because he dropped off eventually, and another guy's brother jumped on. But just that show was very influential to me. Lots of valuable Sega information. I mean, they covered every system, all the genres of games, and when they hit up to a certain point, they stopped, because they did what they wanted to do. And then they started another one called The Gaming of the Shrew. which went on for a little bit. And as you mentioned, I think with people having the time together to do it, I think that's might have what happened to them. They were kind of on a delay, doing an episode here or there. I'd check every once in a while, and it'd been over a year, and they hadn't done a podcast. And I went the other day to check and looked on their feed, and it was like all gone. Everything was gone. Everything on Stitcher to Tweaker and whatever, all those different Pod Bay. Oh, dude, it's all gone.
Oh,
it's
no.
like it disappeared from just the earth. I mean, like there's still and not just the earth, but the whole web itself. There's still a Sega Addicts podcast running with some guys that took over from them, and I just didn't have the same attachment to those guys. I'm sure it was still like a cool show, but I stuck with the other ones. Lots of times when I say something just kind of stupid at the beginning of the show, like I stole that from one of the from Mike Kizavat from the Sega Addicts. I told him I stole it from him too, and he was okay with it. But just to them being so influential, and I kept up with a couple of the guys for a while, and I just found one of them on Facebook, so I'm going to try to get up with a few of them and just see what's going on, see what happened. I think it just got to be too hard for everybody to get up. Everybody got too busy, but I just want to give a big shout out and say thanks to them. And I've mentioned them before, and I'd say for you guys to go listen to them, but apparently you can't. So
yeah,
a sad day.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate. But let's get into a little bit of gaming news. Wow, the Nintendo Switch. The Nintendo Switch is out.
It is upon us.
Yeah, it's weird because, all the podcasts we had prior, talking about this new Nintendo console, all the news articles that posted ever, all the rumors, all the leaks supposedly, and, our last episode we made was in February, like it hadn't been out yet, but now it's finally out, and honestly, the hype is real with this thing. It's right now. It was the fastest selling Nintendo console, and Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is the most sold launch title in Nintendo history. And I've heard a lot of people say a lot of great things about it. I don't have one yet. I'm going to get one eventually, and I'll get into the reasons why. But a couple of my friends have it. I know a good handful, and they enjoy it. They love it. What about you, James? Are you planning on getting one anytime soon, or are you going to wait?
Probably not soon. I never know. I'm very happy to say I just paid off my truck, this very last payment last month. And it probably should have been paid off a month prior, but I think I just missed a payment somewhere, But that just happens. It's those times when you get your paycheck and later you're like, man, I got money. Like, cool. And you spend it and you're like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
There was a reason I had money. I forgot to pay something. But now I'll have a little bit of extra money, which for the most part I really plan on using it more smarter, and like save a bit more, try to pay some more bills off. But at the same time, when you have money you're spending towards a car payment, that does leave a sizable chunk that you have every month for something, in case there is something like a system I want. I'm not going to rule it out. I'd like to say, I got the Wii U. I've gotten every Nintendo console minus the GameCube. And it was nothing against the GameCube. I loved it. I played my brothers a lot, that's how I got to play so many of the games on it. Like, I know it was a cool system. When some people would.
You had a GameCube.
No, dude,
I've
never had one. I play them on my Wii, but like I said, I played a lot because my brother and one of my best friends both had GameCubes, so I got to experience it a lot. It had its exclusive titles. Back then, there was so much crossover between the three with them and Xbox, PS2. I say that, there was a lot of crossover, but still, it seemed like there was more exclusives. I think, like you could get away with having one and still get a nice array of games.
Yeah.
But if you had all like three, that was even a little bit better too. But I've always had a Nintendo system, I said minus that one, and I'd like to think I still would. I still like Nintendo. It looks cool. I've heard good stuff about it. Like I said, we know a handful of people that have had it, and I hadn't heard anybody main thing I asked was like, are you enjoying it, or like, do you regret getting it? And everything I hear is no, it's great. And like EJ, he wasn't even going to get one at first. Actually, I like to think I kind of partway talked him into getting it,
Yeah.
Because I was just like, why not, dude? I'm like, he'd never actually gotten a Nintendo console, like on launch day. And I told him, I was like, you just should. I was like, you're probably gonna end up getting one anyway. I was like, might as well go. And then he started putting, the money down. And to me, it kind of just popped up out of nowhere. Because I remember, I think you said something about Zelda coming out, and I was like, damn. I'm like, if Zelda's coming out, that means the Switch is coming out. I'm like, this was like a Tuesday or something. I'm like, man, it's coming out on Friday. It just, it really just kind of came out of nowhere to me. And then that's all you hear about. I mean, you hear a little bit of bad with some certain issues. I'd heard something about the dock, maybe scratching some of the screens or some of the Joy-Con trouble. I mean, we all know those things. You can't be extra critical, I think, on Nintendo because, every other system, it just happens, It's the price to pay a lot of times for early adopters. I mean, some people have to do it. So, I mean, I send all the praise in the world to people that go out there on day one and get all the kinks and stuff worked out for people like us who get it later on down the road,
Yeah, I was going to mention that. I mean, that was one of the reasons why I'm kind of waiting a little bit. Of course, I already have Zelda Breath of the Wild on the Wii U, and I'm perfectly fine with that. I want to get the Switch when some more stuff comes out, like the new Mario. When that comes out, I want to get it. But mainly, I'm just waiting for all the kinks and all the bugs. And so many consoles. I mean, it's kind of inevitable. A new console comes out, it's going to have bugs. The PS4 had bugs. The Xbox One had bugs. The 360 had the red ring of death for the longest time.
Lots of bugs.
Yeah, I mean, it was like Joe's apartment. So I mean, like, it doesn't really surprise me that there are defects. Hopefully, it gets addressed really soon. Like I said, a lot of people that I know that have a Switch. I haven't known anyone personally that has had a defective Switch yet, but I'm not ruling it out that it's not a thing because I mean, you can see it on YouTube of people playing the Switch and scratching their docks or scratching their screens when they put in the dock, and because the dock is just plastic. That's one thing I was kind of like, I'm surprised Nintendo did this, knowing that you're putting in a tablet in this little dock station. Like, why they wouldn't put any sort of like foam or some sort of cloth or something. I was like, just put like I was telling a lot of people, because of it being plastic, get one of those fiber cloths and put it inside the slot and just tape each side of it. Boom. And of course, screen protector. You're golden at that point,
Yeah, screen protectors are just really good to have for any type of thing like that with a screen. If you can get one, do it, from your phone to anything in life,
anything that you're touching or you're taking places, or I mean, it's just, I don't understand why anybody would have something that has a naked screen like that and wouldn't have a screen protector. I mean, I've had it on my 3DSs. I've had it on, I mean, the only thing I really haven't had a screen protector on is my Game Boy. But even then, like, I was super careful when I was a kid not to get a whole lot of scratches on it. Even the PSP, I had a screen protector on my PSP, So
yeah. The ones is just, it's always wise because you will have a bad day. Like if something breaks. I remember my phone, man, longest time I had half a screen on my phone, and then one morning it fell off completely, and then the screen just knocked out, and I almost had a nervous breakdown because I was like, what am I going to listen to at work all day? It's not even sometimes like, who am I going to call, or it's like, what am I going to listen to?
You just realize how tied to your phone you are. I mean, I would do the same thing. I mean, I record my videos on my phone, and I do so much on my phone. So, I mean, just like gaming consoles, guys, I mean, like, get those screen protectors. The left Joy-Con, hopefully that would be something fixed. But I did want to talk about one thing before we get into the break about the Switch, and that is, did you know the Switch is already hacked? There's already people putting ROMs on the Switch. Now, How long would this last? I'm not sure. I mean, all Nintendo really has to do is put up a firmware update, and I'm pretty sure they're going to be doing that very soon. They'll even probably add a little like, oh, we're putting up a firmware update to fix the left Joy-Con, aka we're going to also fix all these ROM hacks that are coming around, you know? It would not surprise me whatsoever. But, I mean, that's kind of crazy that Nintendo made these little cartridges, or should I say, quote-unquote, game cards that you put inside the Nintendo Switch to help, you know, with piracy, because Nintendo's really not been a big fan of piracy. And here's the console.
They don't like pirates.
They don't. They're more Ninja fans. So they put it out, and boom, it gets hacked, just like the NES Mini. And to be honest, I think that's the reason why we're not going to be seeing any more NES Minis anymore, is because now they can get hacked, and Nintendo's like, you know what, let's just not release any more of them, because I haven't heard a peep about Nintendo putting out any more NES Classic Minis. I haven't heard a single word about it.
Damn hackers, just ruining it for everybody. Ruining it.
Indeed.
Like, you didn't have to. Like, look, I can put games. You didn't have to put them on there. Could have just left it alone, man. People could have the damn minis, you know?
Nope.
You know.
But what we're going to do, guys, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to be talking about some games we've been playing. And the reason we usually save that for like the last end of the show, but I have a lot to talk about because I played Yakuza 0 and I beat that. And I played Zelda Breath of the Wild, and I want to talk to you about that, James, and Yakuza as well. And I think it would be a really good way to wrap up the second half of the episode. So sit back, relax, guys, and we'll be right back. This episode of Xsgaming Podcast is brought to you in part by RetroBroGaming.com. RetroBroGaming.com is the home to the one and only RetroBro emulation console. And now the box ready to play Raspberry Pi 3 with a RetroPie that plays all the retro classics. Go to www.retrobrogaming.com and enter the code XSGaming100 to receive a discounted price and bonus controller. Save the space, save the money, game for the day and for tomorrow. www.retrobrogaming.com. Do you even retro, bro? And we are back, guys, and we had a little bit of a shout out for our break, and it's from my friend John, who just opened up Retro Bro. Retro Bro, if you guys listen to it, is pretty much a Raspberry Pi plug-and-play emulation station. It's something that's really, really awesome. I'm getting one very soon, and I'm going to be doing a product review of it on my YouTube channel. But he is having a deal for all of you guys that are listening today. Of course, if you use the code XSGaming100, you guys get a discount price and an extra SNES controller to put into your Retro Bro. Little USB controller, lots of fun. And James, I think you're even getting a Retro Bro too, right?
Yes. I got one a little while back, and I've been playing it. Like we said, it's very hard to get the minis. There's certain systems out there that you can get. This is one. It's really cool. It's got some little case. Like I said, controller. Comes with the cables. Bunch of different systems you can play. I was enjoying some TurboGrafx earlier. It's one of those things, some people, do these on their own. For me, I'm not that technically inclined. I'd rather have somebody help me out doing it, So, Retro Bro, very good dude, very cool little emulation system to have. And, I've been having a blast. Like I said, I was rocking some TurboGrafx earlier, found a lot of games I'd never played. And I looked at the Game Boy Color, and this was my reaction as I'm going through the games. Like, oh, Barbie's on here. I actually said that. Not sure how I feel, but needless to say, I was very excited for the Barbie games on Game Boy Color.
Well, I do have to say, too, about the Retro Bro is it's very small, which is awesome because, it's pretty much all you have to have is, a micro USB power supply that comes with it. but in an HDMI cable that also comes. I mean, you get everything in this box, and it is so small and compact. You can go to anybody's house and have a retro night, and it's got 4 USB ports. So say you want to play Mario Kart 64, boom, you got it right there. You want to play Bomberman on the Super Nintendo or Bomberman 64, boom, it's right there. I mean, you have all these options for this retro night. And that's what I really like about it, because I'm not home all the time. Sometimes I go to my girlfriend's house, and when I go over there, I'm like, you know what, let's play some old school games, and boom, there it is. And it's all through the HDMI, so it's nice, up converted. You can play on your LCD television, your HD television. And I will say, with the input lag, if you guys play the Retro Bro and you have a little bit of input lag, put your TV on game mode. That takes away all the input lag, and you can, beat the snot out of Mike Tyson and Punch Out. But
yes, any problems too? Say John is a super great dude, and any issues and things like that, little troubleshoot, you can't figure something out, be glad to help you with. Like I said, been having a blast. Like you said, easy to take around. If you work out of town like you used to, would have been real handy to have that. It's just a little bit more fun. We can all play games on our phones and stuff, but if you got a nice, easy, compact way to play when you go from here to there too, it's a great option, and nothing beats actually playing the games with a controller.
Yeah, and also and what's nice is because it is a Raspberry Pi. When you get the Retro Bro, it's a plug and play. You can play it right there out of the box. But say, maybe the Retro Bro doesn't have a game that you're looking for. You can add ROMs to it. You can add emulators to it. If there's an emulator that you want on there that's not on there for some reason, like say you want to play like some Apple Pippin or something, I don't know, you can put that on there. No problem. And again, John, like James said, John's very easygoing, good guy to get a hold of, and he'll be glad to show you. And when you do order the Retro Bro, you do get a piece of paper that comes in there. It gives you instructions about how to do these things. But yeah, RetroBroGaming.com. Be sure to check that out, guys. And I'll definitely be doing a product review very soon on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Xander Skullion on that. Now, let's get into some games we've been playing, because I really wanted to gush about this game, because this is a series I've been wanting to play for 4 years. It's a series that you talked about very highly, James, and that is the Yakuza series. And I recently, about a couple weeks ago, finished Yakuza 0, and holy crap, man, what an experience that game was.
See, yeah, that's how I like to describe them. For me, it's more of an experience. That's why, me, as big a fan as I am, as you can see, I haven't beaten it yet. Like I told you, I stretch out the time. Like, I know at one point, I think you were on a certain chapter. I was a little bit behind, but I'd say we probably had about the same amount of gameplay time in. Mm-hmm. I tend to purposely stretch mine out. Like, I could have beaten it by now, but it's like I took a little break. And I'm getting ready to jump back onto it actually very soon. And man, it's so awesome. So overall, is it a series you'd go back and play the next one that's coming out, Kiwami, in this summer?
Oh, dude, I actually, me and my girlfriend were playing Yakuza 0, and it was funny because like I bought the game, and she plays games too. She's not a big Grand Theft Auto fan though. She's like me. When I play Grand Theft Auto, I play it for a little bit, and then I just start getting distracted and running over people and stuff. She does the same thing. So, like, when I bought Yakuza 0, she was looking at it, and I was trying to explain what this game was without saying, oh, it's a GTA clone, because to me, calling Yakuza a GTA clone is like the biggest insult to the series. So I was like, it's kind of free roaming. It's got some beat 'em up elements, I was like, it's kind of like Shenmue and River City Ransom had a love child, and that's the absolute best way to describe it. And I put it in and I started playing it, and she was just sitting there watching, and she was like, "Wow, this story is actually really good." And it got to the point where her and I both we played the whole thing, and there were like, there was parts in the game that, like the real estate, the cabaret club, stuff like that Janie loved doing, and I would just pass the controller to her, and she would sit there just make. I fell asleep one time when she was doing the cabaret stuff, and you recruit girls onto your cabaret. And I fell asleep, and I woke up, and she was like, yeah, I got 9 more girls at the cabaret club now. And I'm like, my girlfriend was just totally just pimping. She's a pimp, you know. she got the cabaret going, and she got really sucked into it. And she was actually kind of sad when we beat the game. She was just like, I wanted to play more of the cabaret and real estate. She was like, if the game was just real estate and cabaret, I would have so much fun. And it sounds boring as hell, you know, for someone who hasn't played it and they hear real estate and cabaret, you're just like, okay. But it's so addicting.
You know how much I was telling you about the realm, dude. I'm just playing this real estate. Like, that's all I'm doing. Like, I'm not even progressing in the story. Yeah. I'm just sitting here playing real estate. And when it first came there, I was like, man, I'm like, God, I'm going to hate this. I was, like, dreading it. I was dreading it. I started it, and I was like, man, I'm like, this is just fun. Yakuza never fails me. Anything on there that I think is going to be bad or just not fun, it's going to deter from my experience, I'm wrong. You know, anything other that you have to do, it manages to pull off like really well. Now, some of the little side things like slot car racing, I think I did like one of those. A lot of that stuff, you know, I don't do, and you don't have to. But as far as, you know, the mainline story of things, driving, when they added that into part 5. And I know that one, you know, it's back on like the PS3. I'd still, man, sometime if you want to play another like really great one, I'd recommend getting that one. Because plus you get the little J-pop level with Haruka with all like the rhythm stuff.
Oh yeah,
it's just another thing they add. Like when they added that, I was like, man, I got to play as the little girl wanting to be an idol. Like, I don't know if I'm gonna. I'm like, damn, it's fun as hell. They added driving. Never had driving into it. Very arcadey. Like I said, they had the Daytona music. It was fun. Anything they managed to put in there that's new, no matter what, you know, is fun. Even the stealth on some of the games, well, it's not. I don't really know if that's fun, but it's not horrible. And 5 also has hunting. They added that. You spend this whole chapter up in the mountains on a snowy mountain hunting and living off the land.
Oh wow!
It's just 5 is just great, man. You play as 4 different characters. Originally it was like 1 character, 2 character. No, actually it went from like just like 1 to 4. 0 just having the 2 characters is kind of a step back as far as the amount, but it you know, you get more story for each one as compared to the 4 a little bit more shortened interlinking experiences.
Yeah, that, and also I think just playing as 2 characters, it wasn't as overwhelming. You know, and it was like there was times I would get really into like Kirima. I'd get into his story, and I'm like, man, this is getting really, really good. And then all of a sudden it would like stop, and you start playing as Mishima, and you're like, oh, okay. And you start playing as that, and it's like that's the thing, because sometimes, you know, games don't do that. Some games don't do that well. A great example would be like Metal Gear Solid 2. You know, you begin Metal Gear Solid 2, you're playing a Solid Snake, you're, you know, feeling really, really like, oh man, this is freaking awesome. Solid Snake in the new generation gaming of PS2. And then all of a sudden, that mission's over and you're playing as Raiden. And you're like, I really don't like this guy. This guy whines a whole lot. It's okay though, because I'm probably going to go back as Snake later on, and you don't. Spoiler alert, in case you never played Metal Gear Solid 2. You don't get to play back as Solid Snake, and it was horrible. Where Yakuza does a great job of switching between the characters back and forth who have different fighting styles and different personalities, and it makes you want to see what's going on the next side in the next chapter. And I mean,
it leaves you hanging. You know, like you said, like, and you get to learn to tell when it's like, are you sure you don't need to do anything else? Like, it kind of lets you know right before the chapter might end. It gives you a warning, but sometimes still, it end on such a note. You're like, oh, what's gonna? And then, bam, you know, you switch back to Kiryu, and first you're like, man, I wish I was still over there with Majima, and then it's like, nope. Then you get hooked in the other story, and then it's just that back and forth that, like you said, it does so well. Always just kind of leaves you hanging, wanting to go back, but then gets you involved in something else that you also don't want to leave, but then you get pulled away. It's just like great storytelling.
Yeah, and I mean, I am looking forward to the remake of 1 because I have Yakuza, the original on PS2, and I played a little bit of it. But it's one of those games that I don't want to say it hasn't aged well, because it has. for a PS2 game, an early PS2 game. It plays really well, but knowing that there's going to be a better version out there that has like, I want to sound like totally terrible saying this, but I couldn't stand the voice acting in the original Yakuza because the English voice acting was just so bad. And I want to play it with, you know, the Japanese voice acting and the new immersion that they add to it. And, you know, it almost made me feel great after me and Jamie finished Yakuza 0. And she was actually kind of sad. She's like, what are we going to do now? You know, because we finished a game and it's like, you know, games go that when you're done with it, you feel like there's nothing else to do in life. And that's how she felt. She was like, what else were we going to do? And I'm like, Yakuza, the first one's going to be remade this summer. And she's like, yes, you know, so I got her hooked and I got hooked as it's been a long time coming for me. I mean, you've been talking about it on the podcast for a long time. And every time you talked about it, I'm like, yeah, I need to check it out. Because and to this day, I tell people, it's like you said, it's an experience. This game is such an experience. And if you're a Sega fan, so much Sega fan service that it just makes you like nostalgic and kind of sad at the same time that you're like, man, I wish Sega still did, you know, consoles and arcade games and, you know, all that stuff. And you start kind of feeling nostalgic on that. But we got Yakuza, which is awesome.
Yeah, the thing is with part 1, you know, like I said, is a complete, you know, remake. They got the original voice actors for the Japanese voice actors to, you know, come back and do their stuff. It's going to have the fighting styles like 0 did, you know, which is new to it. As far as the sub-stories, and I realized this when I was playing back through 1 the last time. And, you know, for me, it's easier since I started with that one. Like, I can go back to it. It probably, with each game that comes out, it's a little bit tougher because, you know, you get to learn to love the new things that are added each game. Each one adds just like a little something that doesn't completely change it up. It's still familiar. But the sub-stories were very timed. You had to be in a certain time in a certain place doing a certain thing. So you'd miss a lot of them unless you were following, you know, a guide, which I was trying to do the last time. But this one has it like it's been for the past games. You know where it is. You know, you can run into people randomly, but then, you know, it's marked on the map. It's going to be way more structured than it was originally. Like I said, you know, the fighting from the first one's going to have, you know, that engine, I think, with the styles. And then now, you know, one of your main enemies in the first one is Majima.
Oh, wow.
So, and they say he pops up now, like crazy things, like out of a manhole, he'll just like pop up and you'll have to fight him. So you get the random encounters with him, and he's always just been you can see why I like him. He's always been like a highlight of the game, and he really just gets crazier and crazier. But it's going to be, you know, awesome. Kiwami, I learned it says it means extreme. So it's an extreme remake. So it's one that even if you've played the first one before, you know, you're going to want to play this. And I think a lot of people have played Yakuza 0 that maybe never tried it before. You know, Part 5, unless you were already into the series, you probably weren't getting that because it was, you know, it was a download only. And this time it was just more readily available. People are like, hey, I got a PS4. I've been hearing about this game. Looks kind of cool. Sounds cool. They play it. I think everybody that's tried it out that never had before has really loved it. And it's great that, you know, they're into it. They get this remake, and then we get the last one early next year. Yakuza 6 will be the last one in the series.
Wow.
Kind of sad, but you never know. Like I said, they got the one director, Takashi Kitano, that I've been watching. I mentioned before a couple of his Yakuza movies, not based on the game, but just they have Yakuza in them. Outrage and Beyond Outrage. He's going to be in the game. I found out some New Japan pro wrestling wrestlers are going to be a gang in the game.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think they're really going to finish off with a bang. I could only imagine it being like the last one. You know, it's been playing the game since 2005, you know, for over 10 years. And I mean, if 6 is the very last one, I like to think maybe they'll start some kind of new series, offshoot. But if they don't, you know, I can't complain. It's been just it's one of the great experiences of my life playing that damn game for the past 10 years.
Now, speaking of experiences, We're going to get into the other game that we're going to talk about before we wrap up, and that is Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. It debuted the same day as Nintendo Switch. Of course, it's like I said earlier in the episode, it's the highest-selling launch Nintendo game of all time. And also, it was the last Wii U game, which is weird. Thinking it was like, I bought it for the Wii U and I'm holding it. I'm like, this is the very last Wii U game, which in my opinion, and quote me on this, listeners, that I think the Wii U is super underrated. And years later, you're going to start hearing everyone talk about how much it was an underrated console. Very much like we heard about the Dreamcast. We're going to be hearing that about the Wii U in about like 5 years or so. But starting off, James, what was your first initial reaction when you played Zelda Breath of the Wild?
Well, I went ahead and pre-ordered it, earlier in the week, and I was off that day, and I wasn't sure how much I was going to play of it, honestly. I debated getting it because I was like, I'm kind of involved in Yakuza, but I was like, I am taking a little break. I really just wanted to get Zelda and just play it like with the rest of the world. That's what it felt like to me. Like I didn't get a Switch. Like you said, is that or is that like the last Nintendo one? Or are they still going to put out like crap on there too? Or
I think it's the last game. I mean, they did mention that they're going to release Bomberman 64 on the Wii U very soon. But other than that, I think when it comes to like new Wii U releases, I don't think we're going to get any more. I think that was. I
mean, for sure, game. That'll be like at least the very last good or great game. For sure. But and I like that Nintendo. At least they stuck with it. They said we were going to get it on Wii U, and still got it.
Yep.
Another great swan song. But I wanted to play Zelda with everybody else, and I was like, I might just play it this weekend, and then take a break. I'm just going to see how it goes. I popped it in. Of course, I had to wait for something to download or install or all this.
Oh, yeah.
I had my Pro controller, and then it wouldn't start until I plugged in the Wii pad, so I had to get that and get the plug. I was just wanting to play the damn game. So as soon as I got it, you have to have the pad to start it for some reason, but then I switched over to the controller, and right from the start it just had a good feel. And I'd not played the only kind of 3D Zelda game I've really played is Ocarina. So there's still kind of a new, a new experience for me. And going into it, man, I liked it. I liked the feel of it. I liked the look of it. Just, controlled good. Your first weaponry. Like you start off with a branch. I had a really good time, and I played it most of that day. I love how, the first area is kind of a tutorial. You learn so much about it. I kind of got involved in the cooking. I really like that part of the game. And I just kind of also had a little bit of a feeling that I didn't know if this game might overwhelm me at some point. It was a great time. I tried not to think about that, I said, I'm not going to worry about it because I do have that anxiety with games sometimes. It's just like, oh, God, I can't do this. I will say I did play that day that it came out, and I haven't played it since then. And I don't mean that's not anything that's like bad towards the game. My initial plan was really just to play that day, and I didn't know what would come out. I said I might go back to it later on. And, I mean, it's not completely like, oh, man, I got to go play it. But it's not like, oh, I hate it, I'm definitely probably going to jump into it again. But it was mainly for me. I knew I was going to want to pick it up anyway because, I think it's a good chance that one could be one of those ones that's hard to find, or at least more expensive, kind of like how it happened, with the GameCube to Wii Jump with that Zelda. So it's one I wanted to go ahead and have in my collection, and I really got what I wanted out of it. I mean, I had a blast that day. Just exploring. It is very open. I just kind of started wandering around, and I ended up finding a horse, and then man, I caught the field and him on fire, and I felt horrible. But he was okay. He was okay. That happened to me on Red Dead Redemption, man. I ran my horse off a cliff one time, and I was like, oh, God. I was like, I love it. And it was a nice horse. But the horse was okay. I guess you, like, tame them and things. I don't know. My horse is kind of, like, adapted very easily to me. And he's a pretty cool horse. I named him, God, what did I gave him? I named him William. I don't know why. It's just But, you know, like I said, I had a blast that day, and I can see why so many people have put a lot of hours into it. I'm just going to kind of take it kind of slow because I don't know. Like I said, the overwhelmingness might hit me. The weapons, I finally got a good damn sword. I know it's probably going to break before too long. And I got slaughtered a couple of times. You know, those kills are just kind of brutal. But it's very good about, you know, kind of bringing you back not too far from where you were. So, you know, dying's not so bad, and falling off cliffs. And it's just, I mean, I think it is a great Zelda game. I think it could be, I've only played Ocarina, but am I safe in saying that it might be like the best 3D Zelda game?
Not at all. You know, I played Ocarina, I've played like Skyward Sword, Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, Majora's Mask. I mean, I've played a lot of the 3D Zeldas, and my favorite one for a while was Wind Waker, which is weird because a lot of people don't like Wind Waker. I like it because I really like the graphics to it. I feel like I was playing a Saturday morning cartoon. I like the sailing to it. But this one here, like Breath of the Wild, feels more keen to old school Zelda in the sense that when you play the game, it's really like they just threw you in there and they're like, here you go. You want to go ahead and battle Ganon? You can go ahead and battle Ganon if you want. You know, it's like, I mean, his castle's right there. You can go ahead and battle him. And I was going to, you know, I'm making a video soon with Janie, my girlfriend, because she's been playing it with me as well. And, I mean, we've probably put over 50 hours into the game already. I know Saturday we played for 17 hours. I think the only time we stopped was to go to Costco to pick up some, like, you know, paper towels and lunch for next week. But other than that, all we did was play Zelda. And I wouldn't even known because it actually snowed on Sunday, which is crazy. It was like 60 degrees on Saturday, and then the next morning it was snowing outside. And honestly, I would have never known it snowed if it wasn't for Facebook and people would be like, oh my God, it's snowing. Because the moment that me and Jamie got up, we got up and we threw on Zelda. And we were just playing Zelda. That's all we did. And what I like about the game is I like the exploration. I like the fact that, you know, like I said, it's kind of like the first Zelda in the sense that you don't really know what to do at first. You're just making your own story. And, like, what's nice, you can talk to multiple people. And the way they're playing the game could be different than the way you're playing it. The things that you focus on may be something different than someone else is focusing on. Say someone's going after all the shrines and they want to have a lot of stamina, or they want to have a lot of heart. Say someone's going after all those little cuckoo seeds or whatever from the little creatures, so you get bonuses with that. I will say the one gripe is what you mentioned earlier, and that's the weapon breaking. The weapons break very frequently in this game. Like, you'll get a new weapon, and you'll kill like 2 bad guys, and boom, there goes your weapon. And that's something I wish they would kind of patch in some ways, in the sense that I don't mind my weapons breaking. I'm fine with that. I just wish that I didn't become a weapons hoarder, because I don't know about you, James, but when I get those really nice swords, I'm like, I'm just going to save these for the boss. I'm just going to keep using clubs and skeleton arms for, like, the goblins and chameleons.
You know, you need
stuff.
to, like, those early on, the kind of big blue goblins. I remember one of those just murdered me. And they still stayed pretty tough. And it wasn't until I found this one sword. I remember it had like a 28, you know, hit life on it or something. That's all I remember. And I remember I killed one of those blue things. And I was like, damn, I got this good sword now. And it was kind of like, I got to hide it away. Like, just for those certain enemies that require a bit more, that'll come up and just slay you, you know. And you some of the ones I like how it's like you can think. There's lots of, you know, exploding barrels and kind of traps you can set on some of these encampments. Because I mean, that's like it's kind of tough. Like, so you got a couple different colored ones. I can handle a bunch of the orange ones, like, no problem. They can still be a little overwhelming, but you throw in a couple of those blue ones, it's just, man, it's very tough.
Yeah, and I mean, of course, I did want to mention, of course, it does have amiibo support. So all the Zelda amiibos right now are going up in price, and I got all the Zelda amiibos that came out except for the new ones, because they got their own Breath of the Wild amiibos, and even like I used a Smash link, and it gave me the Trousers of Time, pants, and it gave me the Link hat, the green hat, like the Ocarina version of it, because there's different versions. So I was like, man, this feels more like a Zelda. I got the green hat now, and it gave me Epona. It actually gave me Epona, so I got to use that. And I used the Twilight Princess amiibo, the one with the Link Wolf and Mita on there, and it gives you the Link Wolf that comes out, and he'll help you out during like fights or just run with you. The only thing is, and like the game does have elements. If you go into the cold, you'll get cold and your health will go down. If you go into the desert, you'll get too hot, and certain weapons will catch on fire. If there's a thunderstorm, you can't have metal armor on. You get struck by lightning. So that being said, if you have like Link, like the Wolf Link with you, and you're going into like Death Mountain, he'll disappear and he'll say, the wolf went back to his own world. Because,
like, nah, son, ain't going in there.
Yeah, he's like, it's too hot for me, man. So, I mean, there's so much strategy to this game. And before we close off, James, I want to ask you, what are you expecting, like, the end concept to Zelda? Do you think this is going to be a game that will, like, almost like the Yakuzas that we were talking about? Like, do you think it's going to be just one of those games that you're like, this was an experience?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, however it could lead up, I think people will be just kind of, when you get done, it's like it'll probably leave people kind of exhilarated, kind of wanting some more. It could leave people just needing, some people might need a break, like not in a bad way, but just like in a good way, just like, oh man, just gotta kick it back for a little bit after that. But then, it's just going to be interesting to see, like, what's going to follow next. Like, what will, we just got this one, but, like, what will the next one be? Like, what will the, full-on Switch exclusive be? Or, will there be some other type of remake one of something in the meantime? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that you brought up a good question. Like, where do we go from here with the Zelda series? I mean, we got, in my opinion, like the definitive Zelda experience now. Like, where are we going to go from there? And time will tell. And I'm looking forward to what the Switch is going to put up. I'm hoping we get more Zelda for the Switch. With it being the highest selling launch title, I think that's a good possibility that we're going to be getting some more Zelda with the Switch. I certainly hope so.
Maybe we'll see some Metroid, too.
Yes, some Metroid, definitely. But anyway, guys, this wraps up the 100th episode of Xsgaming Podcast. And again, I want to give a little thanks. And if I don't include you in this thanks, it's not because I don't think any less of you. It's just because we've had a lot of guests. But I want to thank people like Jim Kid Sharukin. I want to also thank Michael Burhand. I want to thank Rob Mann. I want to thank Carcamo, Video Game Music Professor, Chris, the Weekend Game Guy. I want to thank a lot of our guests in the past 4 years who's been on the show. And
Ryan Cadaver and Rob Luther.
Yes, those guys too. Ryan Cadaver now, I think from the Xsgaming Podcast group page, I think he's became the most popular guest we have for Halloween. Like, he is our Halloween guest. Like, a lot of people were saying, like, because I was asking him, like, what's your favorite moments of the episodes or your favorite episodes? And I had like 3 or 4 people saying that they loved the Halloween specials with Ryan Cadaver. So, Ryan, if you're listening, I hope you already for Halloween 2017 Xsgaming podcast special, because I'm probably going to hit you up on Facebook on that. But anyway, guys, as always, thanks for listening, and be sure to check us out on iTunes as well. If you guys are not listening to us on iTunes, leave us a review. It helps other people find us and gain more listeners. And also check out my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Xander Skullion, for more content. I'm about to do a review of the Retro Bro on my channel, and I'll give another shout out for that, retrobrogaming.com. Be sure to enter the promo code XSGaming100 to get a nice little discount and an extra controller. And as always, guys, thanks for listening, and as always, happy gaming.
Watch Lucha Underground on Netflix, and have a pleasant evening, everybody.
Yes, I forgot to mention that. Yes, watch both seasons. See you guys.
Can't get enough of Xsgaming Podcast? Be sure to check out our audio podcast on Podomatic.com. You can also subscribe to us on iTunes. And if you have a YouTube channel or podcast you'd like to share, be sure to check us out on Facebook on our group page and join the community. As always, guys, thank you so much for all the support, and happy gaming.